Did you know that this is the first holiday season in 9 years we're not getting a major game or DLC release for Pokemon? And in case you're not caught up on the fandom, we all unanimously agree that this is a good thing. To celebrate, we're going to go through the years of Pokemon games and do what I do best. Optimize and calculate the best way to deal the most damage in each generation. I have got to get a new bit. Alright, we have 9 generations to get through, so let's start with Gen 1 and make our way up through the rest of the generations one at a time. To start, let's talk about what we won't be doing. Explosion might seem appealing here because it halves the opponent's defense, effectively doubling its power from 170 to 340. This makes it super useful in an actual battle against a real opponent, but that's not what we're doing here. If we have a target that already has 1 defense, we can't half it further than that, so the base power is actually still 170. You might still think it's a great option for us because that's the highest base power move in the game, but you'd be wrong. And stupid and dumb actually. What matters far more to us here than base power is our multipliers, like in Balatro. Explosion is a normal type move, and that means it cannot hit for super effective damage. The next highest damaging move in the game is Sky Attack. Now, usually this move is next to useless because even if it has crazy high damage output, it's only going to be actually effective against non-sentient opponents like NPCs or Psy-Spam users. That's a little VGC joke for you. I have no idea what it means. I'm stealing jokes from Twitter at this point. Anyway, Sky Attack usually sucks because it charges up on the first turn and only hits on the second, but obviously we don't care about that and just need it for the damage. Speaking of damage, the good news is that for Stab, the strongest physical attacker in Gen 1 is Dragonite, a flying type. The bad news is that Dragonite doesn't learn Sky Attack. Back to some more good news though, it can learn Mimic, which lets it use any move we like. More bad news to finish it off though, Dragonite doesn't learn any attack increasing move, and we can't use Mimic for both Swords Dance and Sky Attack. So unfortunately, we don't get our cool, satisfying dragon, who is one of my favorite Pokemon to be our Gen 1 attacker. It's Dodrio. It's Dodrio. It's the same setup. Use Mimic to learn Sword Dance and go to town on Paris. And yeah, I checked. There's nothing else that deals more damage. Even a Fire Blast Moltres, it's Dodrio. I promise. Trust me. Anyway, let's plug our numbers into our damage calculation. It goes without saying, by the way, that in every generation there's going to be some sort of integer overflow that we're going to be ignoring here, in the same way we're ignoring the remaining HP of our target. It should also go without saying, but for the whole video, just assume we're dealing the max possible damage roll. Anyway, without further ado, if we plug in our variables to our damage calculation, the most damage possible in Gen 1 is 219,048 damage. Alright, moving swiftly along from the nonsense that is Gen 1, we're on to Gen 2. Not only does this generation add an insane number of interesting attacks and utility moves, but we also now have access to our first items. They're all dog shit with one notable exception, but damage is damage here. I am of course bearing the lead on this because, as we all know, this is the generation where our king, our prophet, our glorious leader comes to take his throne. That's right, it's Rhydon. Yeah, no, Shuckle isn't actually our best damage dealer yet because he doesn't have all of his tools this generation. Don't worry, we'll put a pin in it and come back to our beautiful, smooth king later. And speaking of smooth, this video is sponsored by Manscaped. You know what that means. We're gonna shave my balls live on we're not allowed to, we are not allowed to do that apparently. Okay, that was kind of my whole idea. Alright, screw it. Let's give my roommate an eyebrow slit. Hello! Okay. Say hello to the Manscaped Performance Package 5.0. Not only does it come with a free travel bag, there's also a really high quality pair of underwear that you'll have to trust me on that one. It also comes with a very high quality Manscaped Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Not only does it come with 2 separate heads, a trimmer head and a foil head for precision shaving of whatever it is you need shaved. On top of that, it also comes with a nose trimmer.
Picked the wrong thing. You can cut it.
No, I'm keeping it in. Go get the nose. Get it. Get the nose shitter head. It also comes with 2 separate lotions, an aloe vera one and an aftershave one. For your balls. I might cut this for your balls. Overall, it's a really solid kit with some really high quality products. Okay, enough stalling for time. Time to shave your eyebrow. I like that a lot.
I forgot we still had to do that. You don't want to do it, I'll do it.
Nope.
Okay.
I've overdone it. No? It's okay.
Yeah. Hell yeah. You can't even... I have to get close to the camera.
Oh yeah, go for it. I feel like I fucked it up.
No, not at all.
So, if you're stuck for an idea for a present this Christmas, I really can't recommend this package enough, and I really can't overstate just how high quality the products are. If you head over to manscaped.com and use my code KTL at checkout, you can get 20% off your order, free international shipping, and the free travel bag and underwear. Thank you so much again to Manscaped for sponsoring the video, and let's get back to it. So, we were talking about Gen 2. This generation infamously adds the move Rollout. I don't care if you think she's easy or overhyped, Whitney's Miltank is a house and will end runs and lives. You might not know, but the reason she can do so much damage is because Rollout doubles in strength every turn to a maximum of 480, making it the strongest move in the game on the 5th hit. On top of that, if the user uses Defense Curl before using Rollout, it doubles each hit's damage, making the 5th hit have 960 base power. This makes Rollout our star damage dealer for the vast majority of the generations. So we do have a slight issue with our setup here, insofar as that we need to be able to set up a Yanma on the opposing side of the field with a -6 defense, while also setting up our 5th turn of Rollout without any of the previous turns, resulting in a KO. Here's what that setup looks like with that in mind. First we send out Scizor, who Swords Dances 3 times, then we Baton Pass to Rhydon against a Geodude and we copy its Defense Curl. As we use it, the opponent switches into Espeon, who Rhydon then uses Leeron 6 times. Now we're ready to get started rollouting, as Espeon uses Substitute to avoid taking any damage from the rollout, while still enabling it to increase in damage. Just before the 5th and final hit, Espeon Baton passes into our level 5 Yanma, who eats the critical hit, quad effective, 960 base power rollout, and takes 7,621,632 damage. Time for Gen 3, and this is where things get really interesting. Not only do we get real, actually useful offensive items in this generation, we also get access to stat-altering natures, double battles, and abilities. On top of that, Pokemon hatched from eggs now start at level 1 in this generation and onwards, meaning even lower defense stats than before for our targets. The highest attack stat in the game is that of Deoxys attack form, but it can't learn Defense Curl or Rollout. Lucky for us, it can learn Mimic and Snatch. First we need to make sure we're the Rock type to ensure we get our stab boost, so we use the move Skill Swap to give Deoxys the color change ability, then hit it with a Rock type move to make it the Rock type. Then we Skill Swap Huge Power onto it to double its attack stat. Now we use Snatch as our opponent tries to use Defense Curl, making us use it instead. Nearly finished, we use Mimic to learn the move Rollout, and now we set up our Yanma with -6 defense and then trick a Choice Band onto Deoxys. Ready to go now, we use Follow Me to ensure Yanma is not targeted with the Rollout until the final 5th attack. Our ally uses Helping Hand and we crit and deal 81,865,764 damage. If you're enjoying the video so far, consider subscribing. I'm really close to my goal of 50k by the end of the year, and you'd be surprised how much subscribing helps me out. Even if you think you're already subbed, I'd really appreciate it if you scroll down and triple checked. Thank you so much, and let's get back to the video. It's Gen 4 time now, and finally, the move Power Trick is added to the game, and is added to the learn set of our dear, beloved Shuckle. Power Trick swaps the base attack and defense stats of its user, and with Shuckle having an insane 230 defense, using Power Trick results in it having the highest possible attack stat. We get a new item in this generation as well, the Metronome. This is stronger than the Choice Band because it increases move damage by 10% for every consecutive turn the move was used prior, up to a max of 100% on the 11th attack, doubling our damage output. The only other thing that differs here from the previous generation is the Pokemon in the ally slot, Cherrim. Not only does Cherrim learn Helping Hand, it also has the ability Flower Gift, which boosts ally damage by 50% in harsh sunlight. So, to speed things up slightly to not repeat myself, with our max attack, huge power, power tricked, Helping Hand, Flower Gifted Shuckle using a max metronome boosted defense curl boosted final turn rollout into a level 1 -6 defense Yanma and critting, we deal 106,948,026 damage. Damn, they were not lying. Shuckle really does not fuckle around. So, Gen 5 here is simultaneously one of the most interesting generations, but also requires the least time to talk about. Despite adding the most Pokemon to the Pokedex in one generation at 156 new Pokemon, there's only one major difference between this and Gen 4, and that's the introduction of triple battles. We use the exact same setup as before, except now we have 2 Cherrim using Helping Hand and Harsh Sunlight, and we deal 481,266,009 damage. Gen 6 gives us something really new to sink our teeth into. While pretty innocuous to most, the introduction of Trevenant and its signature move Forest's Curse is pretty huge for us. This move lets you add the grass type to a target without overwriting any other types. If we use this on a Pokemon like Noibat, who is already 4 times weak to Ice, we now have the ability to deal 8 times super effective damage to it using an Ice move. Luckily for us, we don't have to sacrifice our rollout setup either, since in Gen 3 they introduced Ice Ball, which is literally the exact same move as Rollout except it's Ice type. All we have to do is use our color change ability swapping trick we used in Gen 3 to give Shuckle the Ice type, then use Mimic to learn Ice Ball. We then use our very same setup as before, using all the modifiers you see on screen now. This gives us a final damage total of 641,688,012 damage. Okay, so, funny story about Gen 7. It's the first generation here where the most damage possible is actually less than that of the previous. The reason for this is because we don't actually get anything that particularly helps us in terms of damage output, and we completely lose the ability to take part in triple battles. The one thing we do get that does help us is the move Instruct. Instruct lets us force a target Pokemon to reuse a move it just used, which is a pretty big deal for us because it lets the Pokemon on the opposing side force our ally to use Helping Hand again for 3 total 1.5 times multipliers. We do unfortunately need to replace Noibat since Noibat can't learn Instruct or Mimic, and the only flying dragon type that can is Altaria, who can't be level 1. Our solution to fixing this is to use a Smeargle with Reflect type. Now we just do the exact same setup as before, except we also set up a Trick Room to make sure our level 1 Pokemon can move before getting hit by the Ice Ball. Our final damage this time around is still a respectable, but slightly lower than before, 481,266,036 damage. Okay, so even funnier story about Gen 8. If you were around the Pokemon fandom around that time, you might have seen some subtle, low-key, and very normal posts about one tiny, eensy-weensy, barely significant change they made, which was that not every Pokemon was going to be available to use in this generation, either by capture or by transfer from a previous game. Again, a pretty silent minority was very normal about this. I personally didn't care all that much at the time, and don't particularly care now either. What I really do care about is at the same time they stopped implementing a large number of moves that, yeah, granted were quite useless in casual and competitive settings, but were very useful to dipshits like me trying to do some absolute nonsense. Assist, gone. Bide, gone. Rototiller, gone. Natural Gift, Egg Bomb, Ice Ball, all gone. I don't care that your favorite Pokemon Silvally got Dexited, I lost the move Ice Ball. Now I have to go back to Rollout like I'm going back to my wife after my mistress left. I would say that at least we get to bully Yanma again, but it's also not in the game. Anyway, we need a Smeargle to target for our Instruct strat, but still. We basically otherwise do the exact same as in Gen 7, except we don't have to worry about making Shuckle into the Ice type, so that's nice, I guess. Not too much else to say. With all our setup as normal, we can deal 240,633,018 damage. Yeah, I know, it's even less damage than before. I promise Gen 9 gets interesting. So, in my previous most damage video, I already talked about Gen 9, but I have some corrections to make. Maybe. If you haven't seen it, here's a quick rundown. In Gen 9, we get a good few new toys to play with. Big one is that we have a new highest damage attack, Last Respect. This move starts at 50 power and gains 50 power for each Pokemon on your team that faints, and since we can revive Pokemon mid-battle this generation with Revival Blessing, we can have a Pokemon faint 100 times to max out this move's power at 5050. By the way, for anyone who commented about it on the last video, Rage Fist only caps out at 350, so it's not even better than Rollout, just so everyone knows. We also have a few new multipliers this generation to add as well. One new move, Glaive Rush, was added, which makes the user take double damage until its next attack, so that's perfect for our target. We also get to finally take advantage of a battle gimmick. Megas, Z-moves, and Dynamax were all useless to us, but Terastallization boosts Stab to a 2x multiplier if the Terra type is the same as the user's type. Unfortunately, Dexit hits us hard again this gen, and we lose both Shuckle and Cherrim. Cherrim's loss can at least be offset by Stonejourner, whose ability Power Spot gives a 1.3x multiplier to its allies' attacks. It can't learn Helping Hand, but the ability can be swapped off to a Pokemon that can, so that all works out fine. Since we don't have Shuckle, we suddenly lose our highest defense and therefore our highest attack stat in the game. The highest we do have in the game is Regirock at 200, and while Regirock doesn't get access to Last Respect or Mimic, we can use Guard Split to effectively steal its defense and give it to a Smeargle. Guard Split takes the defense stats of the user and the target, averages them out, and sets both Pokemon's defense to that average, and if we use it, switch out and back in Regirock, then use it again and repeat for 8 turns, we can then Power Trick to make Smeargle have the highest attack possible in the game. Okay, so everything I just mentioned was brought up in my previous video, but here's something new. Well, maybe. I'm honestly not sure. Imagine for a moment we use the move Electrify to turn Last Respect into an Electric type move. We could get a 1.5x multiplier from Electric Terrain and a 2x multiplier from Charge. Sounds great, right? The only problem is that the only Pokemon that learn the move aren't in the game. So that brings us to the question of the hour. Is Electrify callable by the move Metronome? I swear it always comes back to fucking Metronome somehow. Literally every video, it haunts me. Anyway, Electrify has description data in Gen 9, but doesn't have move data. The data mine dump from launch would imply not, but there's been multiple patches since then. Pokemon Showdown seems to think it's Metronome callable at least. Of course, even if it is, in a real battle we'd have to do the literal hours of setup required, all to stake it all on one Metronome roll, landing on one specific move out of hundreds to choose from at the very end of the battle. If Electrify is callable and all the stars align to let us pull it off, the most damage possible to deal in Gen 9 would be 7,833,026,160 damage. Thank you so much for watching, I really hope you enjoyed. As always, thank you so much to my supporters on Patreon, especially at least 8,700,000 Ants, Chaos Lord Drago, Orc2000, Sean Colgan, and Zed the Man, as well as Avery Bunn, Eamon Crawford, Frostfucks, Peter Clare Lomax, Squarka, Sparkfire, The Dirt Man, and Where is Spacebar, as well as everyone else you see here. Thank you as well to Manscaped for sponsoring this video again. Remember to use code KTL for 20% off at checkout. Alright, I'll see you in the next one.